This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show. I am Dr. Duke, and I am joined today by Dr. Jake Jacobs. How are you, Jake?
Real good, Duke.
Time to put on a New York talk because we're going to start in New York. And I mean, Schadenfreude, right? Schadenfreude, right? The German concept of taking joy in the misery of others. I can't get enough of what's happening in New York right now.
You mean you have no love of the sanctuary city of New York?
I just love the hypocrisy that now that are actually being held to it with a couple of bus loads of immigrants, they can't handle it, right?
These self-righteous, pompous, virtue-signaling Democrats from Los Angeles to Chicago to New York City saying, surge to our city, come to our city, we'll take care of you. And now what are they doing, Duke?
You know, another thing I love about this story, because it's despicable, this is why I have no sympathy for what the government of New York City is doing, is that through all of this, right, for every one immigrant crossing the border into Manhattan, you've got, 1,000 crossing into Arizona and Texas, and still not a single acknowledgement from any of these progressive Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, that, you know what, maybe we were wrong. Maybe we should have felt some sympathy from what was happening to the border states. No. They're evil, the border states, for daring to say, hey, we're not in Texas, a sanctuary
They're
state.
blaming Governor Abbott. They're blaming
man.
Governor DeSantis. They're blaming this on the Republicans. I mean, the Biden of Brooklyn, Governor Eric Adams, right, says, we can't take this. This is costing us billions of dollars. There's going to be 10,000 every month. No, we can't take this anymore. And in the meantime, the mayor of New York, what's her name again? I forget. Hochul or whatever.
Oh, the governor, you mean?
I meant the governor of New York. Hochul. She's going absolutely crazy. They're all blaming not President Biden, but they're blaming the Republicans for creating this
And note
problem.
the implication of this. Suck it up, Texas. We're turning the southern border blue. We are opening the floodgates. What? And I think this is what they think. We're already blue in L.A. and Chicago.
Yeah.
And why are you doing this to us? They realize that they are punishing states for being conservative states. And can you imagine, I fantasize about this, if New York and Chicago and L.A. were on the border, and Texas and Arizona, New Mexico were in the Northwest, there would be no illegal immigration.
The narrative would be totally flipped.
No way. In fact, the border would be shut down. And National Guard would be there. If millions of Republican voters were flooding the Mexicans and Hispanics and South Americans, all stridently going to come to this country and vote for Republicans. Oh my God, they'd unleash the F-15s on them.
Do you remember when President Trump was president and actually doing a pretty good job with the border? Pretty good job. I've been down there a number of times, and I talked to the citizens down there, ranchers down there, Border Patrol people, and they were saying that Biden has profoundly changed the dynamic. It's an open border, a porous border. But here's my point. Can you remember when Ocasio-Cortez flew down to Texas, and there she was just crying, weeping. Oh, the children, they're in cages. And by the way, those cages were actually created by Barack Obama. Nobody wants to talk about that. Even the ACLU attacked Barack Obama.
We're being a little unprofessional, you and I.
Excuse me.
Because we should have laid out the story. And here we are, just gleefully reveling in the sweet, salty tears of progressive.
To be able to put this nutty socialist in her place, it feels good.
This is the story we were going to start with. It's about it's Sandy from the block, right? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the brain-dead representative from New York, Democrat New York, who and other Democrats now are getting shouted down by their own constituents. And I want to make it clear, the people in New York, outside of Manhattan, are too smart for this. But Manhattan dictates what happens in the rest of the state. So it's really New York gets what it deserves. Manhattan. It's a shame because upstate New York, there's a lot of conservatives.
But Duke, I just have to add though, real quick, knowing some friends from the boroughs, there are many people, even moderate Democrats from Staten Island, from Brooklyn, from the Queens, that are absolutely furious with the policies of the governor, of the mayor, of President Biden.
Ironic, you didn't mention Manhattan.
Okay.
Is that what we're saying? And maybe I should have been more specific.
You know who's the representative of that district? Is that little Jerry Nadler. Yeah.
So basically what we're trying to say politely is screw you, Manhattan, right? You had this coming for a long time.
I got friends in Manhattan. I love those guys. Anyways.
So Sandy from the block is getting shouted down by her constituents. We have a video here of her trying to do an interview as, it gets a little frightening, like she had to hide in the Capitol building when the insurrections, the so-called insurrectors
that was a lie.
Were there, big lie. Take a look at Sandy's dramatics here.
Right now, I think that our main focus is the federal response so that we have resources and a path to citizenship necessary, or a path to documentation necessary.
And Mayor Eric Adams said that
It makes you long for the days of the Jacobins because they'd have dragged Sandy out they'd have beheaded her with the guillotine. And when we know that is not an incitement to violence, we're pointing out that somebody of her graft and incompetence and insensitivity and vulgarity, somebody like that in the past would have been tarred and feathered, right? Yeah, I think that's true.
It's very interesting to me because she's in the 14th district, which is really Bronx and Queens, but she goes down to central Manhattan, which is that Nadler dude's district, and there she was, in essence, making herself look like the fool that she is.
Well, speaking of fools, when she went down to, as you pointed out, went down to Texas when Trump was president to bemoan the policy that Obama started about putting kids in cages, take a look at Sandy doing her best acting right there. Now, again, we learned after the fact that during this shot, she wasn't even looking at immigrants. It's completely staged for the cameras. She's doubled over as if she's just eaten a bad double beef burrito or something, right? I mean, and notice the weeping and the gnashing of teeth, all for a photo op. And of course, has Sandy from the block been to Texas since Biden took over?
No.
No. Of course not.
And by the way, people don't recognize that if you talk to Democrats in Texas, Democratic congressmen, the Democratic mayor of El Paso, they are the ones that are actually sending a lot of these illegal immigrants to New York City. Seriously.
I mean, explain to me why the governor did that, Abbott did that, but then and so did DeSantis.
Yes.
But they seem to have done it and not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
It was there. So why not? Why not keep sending them?
Keep it going. Hey, they were sending a signal. They were, in essence, showing the duplicity, the double standard of these sanctuary city fools. And you know what's interesting about this is they were saying, we defy federal law over and over again. Sanctuary city is really a defiance of the law. If you're coming to this country, you come here legally. You and I don't have a problem with legal immigration. And they were saying they were giving the finger to the federal government. Now, the mayor of New York, the governor of New York, they want who to pay for the bill?
The feds.
federal
and that's what
government.
Sandy was trying to say in that interview. This is the responsibility of the federal government. In other words, give us more money to deal with this. I saw a story from Manhattan yesterday. You may have saw this. Democrat politicians all across Albany, which is the state capital, are now demanding a immediate a tax rate raise.
I did see it.
For billionaires in Manhattan, right? So now that they're struggling like this, they're going to tax the richest New Yorkers they want to pay for the immigrants. And I would love to see that happen. Go ahead, pass a migrant tax of 50% for every asset you have for those rich New Yorkers who could afford to ignore what the city government was doing to the lower class people in that state. Let them really feel the pain.
You mentioned that, the lower class and the billionaires. I was listening to an assembly person from New York up in Albany saying that they're actually putting a tax on automobile parking in Manhattan and throughout various boroughs.
Well, let's be clear, they already have one.
They're doubling
There
it.
you
They're
go.
literally doubling it. And he said this is nothing but the redistribution of wealth to pay for a problem that the Democrats created.
And the federal government Democrats created.
Thank you. Well, city and federal.
Right.
You're right.
And let's also be clear that what they're going, they are, that is not going to cost limousine-driven billionaires much any money. They've got parking places and they've got their own places. This is going to be you wonder too if they're going to do it with taxis, right? Everybody who takes a taxi, they're going to jack up the fares to help these immigrants.
This is going to hurt the middle class
Yeah,
and
of
the
course,
lower middle class.
But it always
big time.
does. It always does.
But stop and think of it. Right now, I heard the mayor talking. Oh, by the way, I love it how he calls himself the Biden of Brooklyn. So the Biden of Brooklyn, this wise mayor, this incompetent mayor of New York, says they need to put up to 12. They've already spent $1.65 billion on this. They literally are taking over schools in Staten
and
Island
hotels
and Brooklyn. And there's a lot of moderate Democrats or just Democrats who are and Republicans who are mad as hell. They're saying our kids, they need teachers, more teachers than ever before, raising taxes, and they need teachers who are bi and trilingual beyond Spanish, because a lot of these are African illegal immigrants. They have to have teachers who can be able to communicate to the kids. They're busting at the seams right now.
You know what, though? And this is the sad, disgusting reality. In fall of 2024, every one of those boroughs is going to vote Democrat.
Oh, dude.
Are they not, Jake? Are they not? I mean, we can talk about the good guys there because I know there are good people suffering there. I know that. But even in Sandy, we talk about how Manhattan's the problem. Where's her district again?
Her district
the Bronx?
is the Bronx and Queens,
And
northern
Queens.
part of Queens.
So it's not Manhattan.
All
and
right,
they,
but
they
fair
put her
enough.
back in. They put her right back in office.
Just a little bit more hope in that. Remember, in the last election, they picked up 4 seats in the House of Representatives. Some people are saying they could pick up maybe a couple of more. That's not phenomenal.
Were any of them from the boroughs?
Okay. Look, I hate it when you out-dock me, Doc.
No.
But in Staten Island is a good example.
Right.
More conservative. Yes, it's on the fringes in that area. Unfortunately, a number of them are leaving the boroughs and saying, we're getting out of Dodge because we can't take this.
I mean, it's not just Manhattan. Take Chicago, right, where Chicago dominates Illinois. The rest of the state is rural farmland, and just like Wisconsin outside
Same
of Milwaukee.
story. Yep.
You know, and the
Milwaukee,
thing about
Madison.
that is Chicago just passed a law. The state of Illinois just passed a law, the governor, that cashless bail, there will be no cash requirement for bail. First state in the country that's done this. So you get arrested, you kill, you murder, you maim, you get out of jail without even putting any cash down.
Am I hearing George Soros in that conversation?
Of course you are.
Unbelievable.
Now, that's the Chicago machine. However, everybody in that state's going to suffer from it. I mean, but again, when the next election rolls around, you think the Republicans are going to win Illinois? They're going to win New York? No, they're not
But
going
they might
to.
get a couple of seats in the House. Come on, dude.
Moral victories.
If we lose 2024, we are fine.
Yeah, well,
you know it.
You know,
Duke?
I probably need to shut my mouth because there will be people in the audience saying that this is defeatist rhetoric, that we can't take this approach to it. However, I'll ask you a rhetorical question, and I'm not going to put you on the spot for answering it. Which Democrat states that went Democrat in 2020, which ones are going to switch?
Hoping
Yeah, let's just pretend we didn't ask that question. Let's go on to happier possibilities. We do have an exciting new venture coming up with our own Jake Jacobs. Cue the image there. Jake has done a video documentary that is all about the border. It's going to be premiered on October 17th here in Freedom Project Academy's ample speaking area, and it is going to be an event. We might even have to get you some red carpet. We could have a little red carpet launch.
Do you think maybe Ocasio, AOC
Maybe
would
she
want to
could.
show?
We could bring her here.
She could cry.
She'd wear one of those designer gowns that says illegal
Tax the
immigrants.
rich.
Yeah, tax the rich. We could have a babe on each arm, some champagne. right? We could hire a couple of limos just to be idling in the parking lot to look like we're important.
Oh, Duke.
But this is an event. Jake Jacobs is doing a very important documentary on the American crisis at the border. It's going to be live here, but you can also watch it remotely on October 17th. If you want more information, go to Freedom Project's many outlets, I guess. I don't want to name just one of them. FPEUSA.org. There's lots of, reach out to our Freedom Project media. A lot of ways you can get information about how to do this. I know our crack producer will be sending out e-blasts about that, all sorts of information. So we're really proud that you did this. It's really important. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back with our second story. How dare they take us serious when we say we're a sanctuary city? Don't you know we were just virtue signaling? Keep those grimy, it's like Martha's Vineyard, right? They're so compassionate. This is the Mecca of Barack Obama used to live there, and boom, they put up with him one day in the state of
the Democratic emperor wears no clothes.
Well, we have a story now that is kind of right up my alley that you picked, and so I'm going to want you to introduce this story about an English professor's new book, Marx. That's Karl Marx for Cats. Show the image here, right? Show the book for us, Mike. There it is. It's Marx. Socialism for Cats, a radical bestiary. Now, I'm a dog guy, and I'm going to start by pointing this out. Did we really need to teach cats about Marx? I mean, they're freeloaders. They don't care about you until you give them something.
I hope my daughter's not listening.
I'm an animal lover, but I just wondering if dogs are free market capitalism, right? Unfettered the liberty to love, then you kind of got to go this way with cats, right? Do they need lessons in Marxism? Ask you a question. If your cat was your size,
yeah,
it'd eat you, wouldn't it?
Yes.
It puts you in the cat
That's
gulag.
what Marxists do.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
Anyway, go talk a little about the story.
Well, there's a professor. She used to be at University of Chicago. She's City University of New York, an English professor. She's like you, Duke, and she's a literary expert on Marxism. She has a disdain for capitalism, so she's written. It's coming out here in a couple of weeks. You can get the PDF online right now. I actually listened to her, believe it or not, for 2 hours. I couldn't believe what I was listening to. You talk about dumbing down students.
She is
These people are lefty loonbirds.
She is exactly what you would expect from how do we phrase this? A lunatic leftist who talks to her cats, right? Throw her credentials up there again. I mean, it's so pompous. This is Lise Laberge. She is a author of Bee Wages Against Artwork, the social practice of decommodification, sections of which have been published in the South Atlantic Quarterly, and of course, postmodern culture. It is unbelievable. And notice that her later books are going after things like capitalism. Take a look at her talking to her kitty cats.
She's prepping for the book.
At a certain moment, where what Marx calls the organic composition of capital, so the amount of essentially built up labor that gets invested in technology confronts one. There's a moment in which finance becomes separate, where we can start really speaking of something like merchant capital or finance capital that just goes around looking for a productive return, not necessarily interested in building up the kind of industrial companies we saw with the production of Whiskas through something like the Temptations. They're just looking for a return. And this is a moment where sort of the productive apparatus of capital and the profit infrastructure of capital becomes separated, as it were. And I think that this cat is a really good example of that.
Oh my God. Did the irony of this, did you notice that the cat was only listening to her BS because she had a bag of treats? The cat is looking at the treats, trying to get up at the treats. That's what I meant when I said maybe cats are a little bit socialism. She's not interested in the theory. give me my government treats.
Did you
right?
hear her verbiage?
Oh,
I mean, it was
geez.
absolutely insane. When I think of literature that I learned when I was in college and graduate school, and it was about ennoblement and truth and virtue and the issues of life, and here she's coming along with this insane pablum of Marxist claptrap verbiage. This is insane stuff. Hey, by the way, she said that they had to have a book. What's it called? Marx for Cats? It's already been written. It's called Animal Farm. I mean, what's the saying? What's the saying where it says, let's see, whatever goes upon two legs is an enemy, whatever goes upon four legs is a friend. So I guess that cat is a friend to the Marxists, to the bourgeois, no, to the proletariat. This is unbelievable. And this stuff is being taught to our kids.
And I like the camera angle that it's not at her. It's basically crotch high, right? And it's Pussy Central. Right, the cat is the star. The pussy cat is sent front and center, isn't it?
Yes, it is, Duke. I'm turning red.
Yeah.
Commie red. Sorry.
Explain why. I just was talking about the cat.
Critical race theory red.
Oh, and look, as an English professor, I got to tell you, this is what we do. I mean, Keats, the great poet, wrote, of course, he was white and heterosexual, so we must cancel him. But Keats wrote the beautiful line that beauty is truth, truth is beauty. That is all you know on earth and all you need to know. The purpose of art and literature and painting and music is to uplift, to reveal the eternity and the truth behind what we believe and stand for. And this is what they've done. They've hijacked this
yes.
with all of this garbage. And the book is just laughable. A radical bestiary, right?
Well, because she says unrecognized animality is at the heart of both Marx and Western Marxist critique. Cats, all animals, are excluded from the reach of a loving revolutionary embrace. It's in the book.
Yeah.
I read parts of it.
500 million dead were embraced to death. The loving embrace of socialism and communism.
It's a catty-cat world, dude.
I think her vocabulary is wrong. It's not an embrace, it's a chokehold, right? The loving embrace of revolution. Yeah, because when I think about peace and love and harmony, I don't think about Jesus. I think about the Red Brigades stampeding across the Chinese landscape, murdering everybody in sight. But, that's the loving embrace. And philosophically, the thing that is most galling about this, you have the great minds of human history. Yep. Keats, Shakespeare.
Dostoevsky.
I mean, Chaucer, Milton, all
Lewis,
of them, over and over again. And their genius now is subordinated to the rambling, unartistic muses of Marx. Who the hell is Karl Marx? He's a failed economist, right? He has a crappy version of revolution. Why does Marx get to undercut the great writers of Western culture?
Because you and I know this is an ideological war to destroy Western Christian civilization. And in literature, I was just at Hillsdale College where they have these kids learning many of the books that you teach. They're learning Dostoevsky, they're learning Aristotle, they're learning Moses and the Hebrew prophets, etc. They're learning great literature to ennoble humanity, not this insane Marxism, which is the antithesis of life and liberty.
Yeah, and again, I repeat, we have decided that radical frauds and charlatans, people like Marx and all of his followers, Marcuse, you talked about them, Gramsci, all of them, that these guys, because of their narrow, selfish, historically destructive worldview, we're taking the great art and literature of Western culture and we're allowing this clown show of Marxist nonsense to basically invalidate and cancel all of that history.
Duke, but you're forgetting that some cats are free, but some other cats are more free than others.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I had to sneak that in there.
I guess what I would ask is, why is this woman trying to be taken seriously when she's lecturing her cat? What? I mean,
But the tragedy is the kids at New York, at this university in New York City. They got enough Ocasio-Cortez socialists in the world. All she's doing is making more Ocasio-Cortez for the country.
Well, and this ties nicely back to the first story because she is a professor at, ready for it, CUNY, New York, the City University of New York. So these are the people who claim Marxist sanctuary city, who are now crying and whining because their buildings have taken over by immigrants, that they can't park now, and the double fees now for parking their little Toyota Priuses, right? I mean, endlessly stupid. No words. And
Duke is speechless?
As an English professor, what they've done to our profession, they've destroyed it. And they've destroyed the rich heritage of Western literature for their selfish political ambitions. That's going to wrap this show up. If you enjoy this program, please subscribe to our brand new podcast channel. It is free. Simply search Dr. Duke Show on your favorite podcast platform. And if you're on Rumble, you ought to check it out. Please follow our new Rumble channel at rumble.com/FreedomProject for all of us here at the Dr. Duke Show and for Jake Jacobs. We thank you. We thank you, and we look forward to seeing you next time.